What's going on, guys? Welcome back. So the IRS is fixing roughly 8 million stimulus checks for the American people. Some Republicans are getting on board with pieces of the $1.9 trillion stimulus package. Democrats are upset that President Biden wants to pass a bipartisan package, and most of Congress is mad with the Biden administration. However, we are getting more information on those $1,400 second or possibly third stimulus checks. Now, I hope you're having a wonderful weekend, but let's get into the stimulus checks and stimulus package updates for today. Right now, the IRS is saying that they are working through this issue, trying to get roughly 8 million Americans their $600 stimulus checks. This is done because President Biden did an executive order the other day that pretty much forces the IRS to find these checks. Currently, what they are saying is you have to do something called a payment trace. Now, it sounds like they're going to go and look for and trace your stimulus check. That's not necessarily what they're going to do. What they do when you submit pretty much a form or a ping for a stimulus trace is they go and find out. They go and, okay, you notified them and let them know I didn't get my check. They're going to look into that. Well, how do you do this? Well, there are a couple things you need to know first. The first thing you need to understand is if on your Get My Payment portal, if you went there and you put in all your information and it said your stimulus check was sent via direct deposit on, let's say, January 6th, because that's when a lot of these have been issued. If it says January 6th, well, currently it says you need to make sure that it says it was issued at least 5 days before you go and issue a payment trace. So if it's January 6th, that means on January 11th, you can go and issue a payment trace. Well, if it's a paper check, you have to wait 4 weeks. So if it's January 6th, you have to wait until pretty much the end of January. So like the 27th, or actually that would be 3 weeks. So it would be closer to March or closer to February. So here's what you do. In order to do a trace or submit a trace, get the IRS to pretty much go and look for you, you have to go and call the IRS's phone number and follow the prompts. It will direct you to that, and then they will go and look into it. The phone number for the IRS is 800-919-9835. Again, it's 800-919-9835. Again, go and call. You're not going to speak with anybody, but you'll go through their prompts and you can go and submit that. Now, hopefully this helps, and hopefully this allows you to get this stimulus check. Now, why is Congress so upset? Here's what we know. Congress is upset because the Biden administration promised a $2,000 stimulus check. That's not why Congress is upset. Congress is upset because the Biden administration promised a large stimulus package. We know that. Yet, they've only provided a little bit of detail. This is a big issue. We waited for a little while on Friday trying to get some information from President Biden himself, and he gave us, it brought up more questions than answers. So, Democrats are currently mad that the current administration wasn't prepared. They had 4 weeks. Actually, they had months to prepare, but there's a report saying they had 4 weeks to put something together. And this is what they got? Democrats are upset. They are furious. They're fuming because the Biden administration is making Democrats look bad. They were not prepared. And Republicans, they're mad because they say the information they have been given makes it look like blue state bailouts and Democratic priorities across the board. There's nothing for Republicans. So even though President Biden says he wants to unify the nation and we want to stay united and we want to work together, the issue is some Republicans are saying, well, you're making it seem like, okay, Democratic priorities are more important than Republican priorities. But the issue is there were 74 million people that voted for former President Trump, voted for Republicans. So you have 74 million Republicans out there, and you don't want to cater any of these needs to them? That's why Republicans right now are so mad. But the truth is that the Biden administration should have provided all these details already. They had a long time to prepare this. And that's why many people are currently saying that it's just a miss. It's either a miss on the current administration or it's a miss on Congress. Why? Why has this not happened already? Why do we not have more information? Why? Again, more questions than answers. And so this is actually becoming a big issue for the current administration. Even though they've only been in office for less than a week, people are saying that it's a disgrace. They come in after former President Trump and the Trump administration leaves, saying that they're going to do things better and things on day one are going to be improved. But some are saying that we haven't seen any improvements. So right now, it's very difficult to even look and see what Democrats are doing and what the Biden administration is doing and be like, yeah, stimulus is coming. It's coming. It's going to happen. I think it will, but at the same time, it's tough to guarantee this and to promise this because right now we're seeing little action. We've seen a lot of executive orders, but anything past that deals with Congress, which that's where additional stimulus check would come, more unemployment benefits would come, state and local government funding would come, vaccine distribution, money, school aid. It's all coming from Congress. And right now, Congress and the current administration, not on the same page. They're not even in the same book. They might not even be in the same library. So who knows? It could be in different languages as far as we know. But earlier today, as I mentioned, there are many members of Congress right now that are trying to put together a new proposal for additional stimulus. Okay. Probably thinking, well, that's great. That's good news, right? Well, here's what some people are saying. Many lawmakers are wondering why would another group of lawmakers put together a new proposal when we haven't even got the details from the current administration? Shouldn't we get those details first and then they can plan around it? So right now, everybody is almost on their own different path, trying to do their own thing. And that's going to be very difficult to pass anything when everybody has their own idea, own agenda, and different proposals. Now, we also know that there's a group of House Democrats that are putting together a plan for a smaller stimulus package. We heard this the other day. I mentioned it, I think over the past few days. I've kind of mentioned this, that it's coming. We're going to see it at some point. However, this is only going to include vaccine distribution funding and also a $1,400 stimulus check. Yet, some are saying, why not wait until the Biden administration puts together their package? Because they already said, and President Biden has said this multiple times himself, that we don't feel the need to pass a smaller stimulus package. $1.9 trillion is what we need, so that is what we will pass. Even his press secretary, Jen Psaki, said the exact same thing. Why would we negotiate? Why would we compromise when $1.9 trillion is the compromise? That is what we need. So we will see. We also have some Democrats saying that this stimulus package is not targeted enough. Now, they like the size. They say the size is perfect, but the targeting is way off. Some wonder, should we be focused on a $15 federal minimum wage at this point, or should we wait? We have time. They also say, should we even consider an additional child tax credit if it won't even happen this year anyway? That makes sense. If we are going to get an increase to the child tax credit, everyone's like, yay, this is going to be good. But if it doesn't even happen and it only happens at the end of the year when you file your taxes, does it do us any good to be arguing this point right now when we're not going to see this happen until next year, sometime in 2022? It's a valid point. And some are saying, wouldn't the amount of state and local government funding be better used elsewhere as opposed to sitting in a state's emergency fund? Now, I think that is a very valid question. But again, this all goes back and it boils down to the current administration not being prepared. Here's why I say this. If the Biden administration came out and said, we will not allow the $350 billion that's going to state and local government funding, we will not allow that to be used for state or pension bailouts or pension funding, and we will not allow that to be used to just sit and not be allocated and spent. It has to go to an actual priority. It cannot go and sit in an emergency fund. So if they came out and said that, some Republicans would be like, yeah, okay, we'll go for that. And then some Democrats would be like, okay, that makes sense. We don't just want the money to go to these states and just sit there. We want the money to be used and prop up the economy, provide for the American people. That's what we want. We want the economy to fully open up. And it can't open up if we send $350 billion to states and they put all that money in their emergency fund. It just doesn't make sense. Again, these are all questions that Congress is currently asking, and right now many are wondering if the current administration was even prepared and is even prepared to make a big move, a big bold move for stimulus. We know Bernie Sanders is. We know Nancy Pelosi wants to. Chuck Schumer wants to. A lot of people want to. But how big, how bold, how robust? We don't know. Bernie Sanders is the only one saying he will do whatever it takes. It's on him. And if he has anything to do with it, if he has anything to say, he will pass this through a budget reconciliation, which again only needs 51 votes. Now, we do have some positive news on the Republican front, though. Republican Senator Roy Blunt, he had this to say, I quote, "I suspect the whole package is a non-starter, but it's got plenty of starters in it. And a lot of them are things that we proposed in terms of more assistance to states." Okay, so this isn't directly just state and local government funding. This is many things. Assistance to states also includes things like vaccine distribution funding, a little bit with unemployment as well, things like that. He goes on to say, there's some things in there that aren't going to happen. There's some things that can happen, and that's how this process should work. So this is a very positive sign because it shows that some Republicans are getting on board with the idea of an additional stimulus package. Right now, we were, yesterday and even a few days ago, there were many Republicans that said absolutely no. No way, not going to happen. Mitt Romney was one of those people. However, he's kind of open up to the idea of an additional stimulus package, not to the tune of $1.9 trillion and not providing $350 billion to states, a $15 federal minimum wage and things like that, but he's open to a more targeted stimulus and going to the right people and the right different sectors. If that happens, we could see this get passed. However, right now we know the next stimulus package will be negotiated soon. Some are saying this will be negotiated hopefully in February. Now, they say hopefully. I don't like that term simply because it's just, if it doesn't happen, they're like, well, we hoped it would, but it didn't. Oh, well. The American people can't be like, well, I was hoping to get a stimulus check. Sorry, Mr. Banker, I can't pay for my car this month or last month or the month before, and now you're going to repo it. But hopefully I'll have your money next week. Hopefully I'll have your money next month. The American people cannot live with a bunch of hopefullys or wishful thinking. So the problem right now is that the Senate will begin the impeachment trial for former President Trump. This will begin as soon as February 9th. Okay, February 9th. This means if stimulus talks they don't start to progress soon, then we might not see any stimulus negotiations really moving forward in a successful manner, probably for an additional 3 to 4 weeks after the impeachment trials begin. The last impeachment that President Trump went through, or former President Trump went through, took, I believe, like 21 to 22 days. If any of you know, comment down in the comment section below the exact timeline. I think it was like 21 to 22 days. If the Senate takes up 21 days of their time, 3 weeks, that puts us into March. If they start on February 9th, that puts us into March. March 14th is when unemployment benefits expire. The end of March is when the student loan thing? Anyway, so there's another fiscal cliff there. We have the end of March as well? That end of March, and then Congress comes back in session like the second week of April. So the end of March to the beginning of April, there's a 2-week gap where we have nothing. They're on recess. So we'll see what happens there. So right now, what they're saying is we don't expect stimulus to really get anywhere until possibly the first week of March. which isn't great. That's not great news. This means that if negotiations take 3 weeks, this would push us to the end of March, and it would have to happen before March 26th. And at that point, if we see a stimulus check, it probably wouldn't come until the first week of April. So not great news there. The good news is that the Problem Solvers Caucus at this point seems to be getting back to work. That is good. And here's the reason why I say this. The Problem Solvers Caucus was the group that put the $900 billion stimulus package together. It was technically a $908 billion stimulus package. However, it was slightly modified. And now it included $600 stimulus checks. However, they also did take out state and local government funding, and they took out liability protections and put that at a different bill. So tomorrow, the Problem Solvers Caucus, not the entire group, but I think 2 or 3 of the members are going to meet with Brian Deese to discuss stimulus. Now, it is being reported that the Problem Solvers Caucus will take on the same role as the last stimulus package. Remember, they will work together, as the group. They'll work together in their own group and try to figure out what pieces they can include, what pieces they have to exclude, and where we can move forward with a bipartisan stimulus package. Now, this will then be put into a bill or a proposal. It will then be presented to other lawmakers to see how much support they would actually receive. If nobody supports it, they'd go back to the drawing board. But if everybody does, then they would see what the Biden administration wants, if they approve, and they would move forward with that bill. Send it to the Congressional Budget Office, turn it into a bill, do all the, those nice slideshows and all that great stuff and present it to the American people. Awesome. But again, this takes time. This takes time. One report indicates that this in itself could take a couple of weeks, and then we could see more weeks of successful negotiations. If they're not successful, it's going to slow everything down. So when it comes to that $1,400 second, or I guess possibly third stimulus check, depending on when it comes, we know this is going to be tied to many other provisions. The Problem Solvers Caucus could split this up and put some things in some pieces of legislation in the bill, some in another bill, and try to get them passed separately. However, it is currently being said that there is no need to do this because Democrats hold all the power in the majority in the House and the majority in the Senate, so they can pretty much just push things through anyway. So what we're expecting to see, we will see at least a $1.5 trillion stimulus package if it has overwhelming bipartisan support. Or the second option, we will see a larger $1.9 trillion or maybe even higher trillion-dollar stimulus package with little to no Republican support. My guess is at this point, according to all reports, the second option is the most likely option moving forward. So again, if this happens, we'll know. I'll bring you those updates. So consider subscribing so I can continue to keep you updated on everything that's going on. Again, thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I'll see you guys on the next one.